time one speaks with a stranger, they likely assume that that person is relatively healthy and safe. However, according to the statistics, this may not be the case, as 1 in every 25 adults in America has a diagnosed serious mental health disorder. Even those with less critical conditions still present a staggering population, totaling over 450 million people worldwide. This makes mental illness one of the top health problems in the country, affecting nearly a quarter of the population of America. According to the World Health Organization, 2/3 of these people will never seek treatment. Some of these victims desperately need help and might have even asked for help if their mental state had allowed them the opportunity. Especially in the case of depression, these people whose minds are not functioning properly could make the irreversible decision of suicide, which could have been prevented. Those who are unconscious in our country are given life support, but right now, those with crippling depression are left alone to fend for themselves and to fix themselves. Right now, in many states, adults who see signs of danger to oneself or others in their family members cannot actually take that action without court systems being involved. Because of this legal hassle, adults and children could make the irreversible decision of suicide, which could have been prevented. This is supported by the Treatment Advocacy Center, which says that watching a loved one fall into the grips of severe mental illness can be a painful and terrifying experience. Unfortunately, in far too many cases, that descent is precipitated by overly restrictive treatment laws. Families are told that life-saving care is predicated on violence, turning a medical illness into a criminal justice matter. And to the detriment of everyone involved, society also suffers, with communities struggling to care for a growing homeless population marked by severe mental illness. Jails and prisons are overwhelmed with the most severely ill, as law enforcement is forced to assume an unwarranted role as a de facto medical system. Most people who have a relative who are in danger to themselves understand the importance of having a way to initiate treatment if that person has a flare-up. In Florida, the Baker Act is what allows this and gives parameters for family members to institutionalize their relatives. Steve Cooper is the son of a bipolar mother who was Baker Acted twice, and he had this to say on the issue. Oftentimes, in order for a person to be involuntarily committed, the judge has to sign off that they display signs of self-harm, suicide, or impose an imminent threat to others. But the Baker Act is like a police officer or first responder who pulls a suicide jumper off the bridge right before they leap. Obviously, with this in mind, involuntary commitment is an act of love under the right criteria, and something that our country should prioritize for the safety of the mentally ill. Life is a fundamental right, and to refuse care to people who cannot get it for themselves is a violation of that right. Those suffering mental illness often do not seek help, which clearly endangers themselves and others, and therefore authorized adults should be able to initiate emergency voluntary commitment. Medical professionals can then assess the state of that person and decide on the next proper legal action to take, whether that be to treat them or maybe to release them. As with any change, abuses are possible, but can be prevented without leaving the impaired or insane to fix themselves or to commit suicide with a disabled mind. One of the regulations that could be instilled would that there must be a history of mental illness, which would prevent overuse. After this diagnosis, families should be given the benefit of the doubt and allow for the involuntary commitment of the confirmed mentally ill for a 72-hour period in which medical professionals can ensure the next best course of action to take for everyone involved. Marnie Cooper is the daughter of a man who attempted to shoot his neighbor, and she is a strong supporter of involuntary commitment, saying that this 72-hour period allowed for her father to be treated and given the right medicine to begin to function properly. According to the esteemed Treatment Advocacy Center that promotes political change for the benefit of the mentally ill, all states should follow these standards for involuntary commitment, and if they do not, they are not doing what is best for mentally ill, and unfortunately in our nation that is the reality. They say that any responsible adult, or at a minimum guardians and parents, should be able to petition the courts to seek a court order for inpatient civil commitment. Statutory language defining the danger to self or others standard should not require imminence of harm, and that this standard should also not require grave disability standards should not require imminence or unreasonably high risk of harm either. Okay, so there's also a woman who supported this issue, and she was actually inducted herself in the same state, Florida. As a resident, she was institutionalized by her therapist, and she said that it was a terrifying experience. After saying that she could not ensure her future because she did not understand where she would be going in her life, she didn't understand what mental mental illness could really do to her. She was institutionalized, and her therapist called the cops for her to be taken away. The cop was trying to be nice, and so she felt bad because she was still very overwhelmed. This was only supported by the fact that she had to wait for that cop to arrive with her mother while in danger and having suicidal thoughts, and then was driven to that hospital in a police car, which was just a terrifying experience for any teenager to go through. So there's also, she says that she thinks that family members or very close loved ones should be able to recommend someone to be Baker acted, but instead of through scary court stuff or police cars, they should have a session with a psychologist in which they can be assured that they actually have a mental illness, they can be examined, and their loved one who tried to Baker act them can also be ensured to not have any ulterior motives. If these petitions come to fruition, society and individual homes will be made a safer place. So a world where people who need help are given the help they need when they need it is the place that everyone wants to live in. This way, when a loved one is in need of care, those who are actually in a position to care for that person, who are in a position to love and support that person, can actually act upon that. Many states have policies that allow for a family to initiate this care, and that is the places in our nation that have the best standards for mental health according to these sources. It is time to ensure the safety of the mentally ill and ensure the safety, therefore, of those who cannot ensure the safety for themselves. This can be accelerated by citizens calling their governor and making sure that their policies and bills line up with the safety of the mentally ill. When voting for a candidate, they should ensure that these issues are covered by the candidate in a correct way and for the safety of those mentally ill. They can utilize innovative social media platforms to share, critique, and encourage different plans and different ideas that come with development and mental ill care advances. If able, people who are in concern for the mentally ill can also financially support institutions like the Treatment Advocacy Center, which are invaluable for the mentally ill. But most importantly, those who have a loved one with mental illness can be kind and listen for warning signs because they could help to save a life.